And I remember him responding, you know, but the wife's book sold more than mine. And I remember, and let me be brief about this, back in the 80s, the Georgia Legislative Caucus had wanted to give CT a secret or surprise award at some venue. And CT worked out and got him there. And what did CT do? He turned his tribute into a tribute to Octavia. And I watched every woman in that room's body posture move and lean into his words. When he talked about how all the times that he was away and gone during movement, that she kept all the resentment and did nothing but engender love for him from his children. And that was CT. You know, but books. By luck or serendipity, I was in his life when CT began collecting, and I was transitioning from collector to dealer. During those early years, I admit he kept my lights on a couple of times, if not more. But the real reward was to watch him look through every box of newfound books that I took to his house. They were immediately his new friends. Collectors, there are all kinds of them, but there is a hierarchy. And CT sits at the top. He is the collector for whom the book is a tactile experience of what he loves and values. The book is not an object, it's an intimate relationship. His library is not a room for books. It's a place of rejuvenation, contemplation, and sanctuary. At a recent board meeting for the CT and Octavia Vivian's library, my dear friend looked at me and said, I remember when we met. Seems to me from a friend and a hero, I couldn't ask for more. Our friendship had bonded over a love of history, a great deal of which he made, and at that time a love for the writings and poetry of Langston Hughes. I don't do spoken word very much anymore, but this one's for CT. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow. For me, CT was a dream keeper, always holding fast for dreams of a better world.
Thank you to David and to Don, and to you also, Reverend George, wherever you may have gotten away to. I think you missed your calling, sir. Thank you. That truly blessed us. We all know CT, but to call him friend is a different seat to sit in. So we appreciate you sharing your experiences about CT with us. I greatly appreciate the mentioning of my dear mother-in-law, Octavia Vivian. She truly was a jewel, a precious woman. You think CT was humble. She was humble. And I think we all miss her and are thinking of her fondly as well as we pay tribute to CT. You know, to say CT was larger than life truly is an understatement, and I believe with all of my heart, at the moment that Octavia, his beautiful wife, met him, she knew he would never just belong to her, that he would always belong to the people. He would belong to the world. You see, his work, his calling, his anointing was just too great to exist in a vacuum. We're grateful for her willingness to share him. We're grateful for his children's willingness to share him. At this time, we will show the video tributes from those who knew CT well, his peers, his co-laborers in the movement, and those who have used their global platform to amplify the voices of activists seeking justice for all of us. The first video that you will see will be a tribute from Hank Aaron and Billy Aaron, from Bernard Lafayette, Ambassador Andrew Young, and Henrietta Antonin.
Well, CT and I don't go back as far as the rest of them, like Andy and some of them. I've been knowing CT for a long time. I got to love him, really, not know him, but I loved him for what he stood for and what he did and things that he did. And I don't know, you know, sometimes you wonder what care these civil rights guys own, you know, really. And I am so blessed to be part of them, blessed to know them, really.
As I discovered him, his background and all, it just gave me a tremendous appreciation for the man and the work that he was doing. He continued to labor in the vineyard until his death. So I guess you could say, I just felt that it was his destiny. He was destined to become the kind of human being that he was, which was so warm and unassuming. He never stepped out there to try to get in front of the line. He was always working to plan and implement the plan.
C.T. Vivian had a rhythm to his message. And his rhythm was really like music. And as he continued to make his points, he always went in depth. That was the intellectual part of it. You could always draw from what he had to say, okay? Not just a repetition of, say, verses, but he had a tone to it. And I would describe his preaching as an echo from heaven. Well, he was so enthralled in the readings and books and that sort of thing. You know, he had about easily 3,000 books or more, you know, it could be 6. And so, yes, I do remember the writings and that sort of thing. And his wife, Octavia, she was very much involved as a, you know, might say a librarian almost, because she did a very enormous collection, you know, of books and stuff.
I was so close to CT as I was to Martin Luther King, and I don't know that I'll ever be lonely for the memories and the presence of my brothers like C.T. Vivian will always be with me. He was always a pastor. He was always a preacher, and a good one. And his motivation was always spiritual. He didn't want attention, he didn't want money. He only wanted to do God's will and bring out the best in these United States of America and its people, regardless of their race, creed, color, or national origin. He was always very physical fitness oriented. I say my knees are bad, and his knees held up all the way for 96 years because he used to go over to Morris Brown and run up the steps of the stadium and walk down and then run up again to stay in shape. And well, he and Jimmy Carter are the only people I know that remain the same weight they were in college right on into the last days of their life. He never gained a pound, and he never lost his physical fitness. And he never lost his mental fitness, even in these last days when...
11 Alive News at noon starts now. Happening right now, honoring the life and legacy of civil rights warrior C.T. Vivian. This is a live look at the video tribute playing right now inside Providence Missionary Baptist Church in Southwest Atlanta. His funeral service beginning less than an hour ago. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sheba Russell.
And I'm Jeff Hullinger. Reverend Vivian, an author, an intellectual, close friend and advisor to Dr. King, died last Friday at his home around 3 a.m. He was 95. Born Cordy Tyndall Vivian, July 28, 1924 in Boonville, Missouri. He made his first step into the civil rights movement in the United States when he took part in a lunch counter sit-in in Peoria, Illinois, back in the 1940s when he was still in high school.
He later went on to participate in the Freedom Rides, marched alongside his friend, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and became an early and active member of the group that would later become the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He consulted 5 presidents on civil rights issues, and he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, by former President Barack Obama back in 2013 for his leadership during the movement. Vivian was married to his wife Octavia for nearly 60 years, and she died in 2011. He leaves behind 6 children and a host of grandchildren.
We're told his 6 grandsons are serving as pallbearers today, and we want to go now to 11 Alive's Naima Abdullahi, who is outside Providence Missionary Baptist Church, where the service, a moving service, is taking place now.
Jeff, we've been here for a few hours right now, and we are waiting for that service to wrap up outside of the church. Let's kind of paint the scene for you. There are flowers set up. There is not a large crowd, obviously, because of the pandemic, and there's not a large crowd inside, but there has been so many tributes all over the world for this legend, this icon who meant so much to so many different people. And the messages inside the church right now. One other thing we really want to show you also is there is a small group of people right there wearing blue overalls, the iconic outfit of Hosea Williams. If you know anything about Hosea Williams, you would know that not only is he a civil rights icon, but that outfit is so iconic and representative of everything he stood for. And in addition to that, he was a dear friend of C.T. Vivian. He was a dear friend of Benjamin E. Mays. He was a dear friend of Ralph David Abernathy and MLK as well. Right now inside the church, so many moving tributes from his family, his friends, with a key element that if this very moment does not inspire you, I don't know what will.
God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. I always say fear doesn't leave us. We leave it with every step we take. And it is evident in that video that Dr. Vivian was not afraid. He was a man of courage, and he was a man of action. If this does not inspire you, I don't know what will. I want to take a step back and thank Karen Lowry for her beautiful rendition of the Lord's Prayer. I was truly blessed by it, and to know that she herself suffered a loss this year of her own father, the Reverend Joe Lowry, and for her to take time to be here for our family is truly amazing, and it is a testimony of the closeness of the civil rights families.
Dr. Vivian was more than just a friend. He was my heart. He was my soul. I would not be the person that I am today if it was not for Dr. Vivian.
And this tribute is streaming live on 11alive.com and also on the YouTube page. If you want to check it out, make sure you tune in right now on the service. Again, this is a well-deserved service for a man who lived to be 95 years old. A key advisor for Dr. King, a man who made such a big difference in Atlanta, in Selma, in Nashville at the sit-ins, in Peoria, Illinois, when his movement, his passion started in 1947. A well-deserved tribute for a job well done and a life well lived. We'll continue bringing you guys coverage on air and online. Back to you.
Naima, a small crowd inside Providence Missionary Baptist Church there because of COVID-19. We heard one of the speakers mention Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms there. Any other dignitaries you're seeing that have walked into the church or are perhaps sitting there in the church?
Right now, I've actually been tuned in to the service from my phone, making sure I don't miss any key elements of powerful moments that are being said inside. Also with face masks, as they are further away from us. Where we're standing right now is away from people. But, you know, as they walk in, sometimes it is hard to tell exactly because of them protecting themselves during this time of the pandemic. So it's hard to tell from our vantage point of where we are right now. But we're pretty sure that if you are anyone of certain significance in the political arena here in Metro Atlanta, that at this very moment you would be inside to pay tribute to a man who paved the way for so many.
All right, well, thank you so much, Naima. Yesterday, Reverend Vivian was given one of the rarest honors in our state, to lie in honor at the Georgia State Capitol, and people who loved him gathered around his casket, which was covered by the state flag. Governor Kemp also spoke at the service. He says not only will Reverend Vivian be remembered as a civil rights icon, he will be remembered for his heart.
We know Dr. Vivian was a bold leader, but after having the opportunity to meet him, I can also say he was just a nice man. He leaves behind a great work, one that each of us has the opportunity to build on.
It has been a very difficult week for Atlanta, Georgia, and the nation. Two civil rights warriors, icons, leaders, legends dying within hours of each other. Congressman John Lewis also dying last Friday after battling pancreatic cancer. His family holding off on announcing funeral arrangements until tomorrow so that the focus can remain on Reverend Vivian and his hard-fought battle for civil rights that not only changed and shaped our city, but a region in our country as a whole. 11Alive continuing coverage of Reverend Vivian's memorial. You can watch the service live on our 11Alive YouTube page and on our sister station, Channel 36 WATL. Also, you will find much more on the lives and legacies of Reverend Vivian and Congressman Lewis on a special section of our website, 11alive.com. Atlanta's mayor, now COVID-19 free, not backing down on her effort to protect the city from the virus, appearing on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms spoke about the legal battle brewing between her and Governor Kemp over the mask mandate and other COVID-19 restrictions. Nick Sturdivant at the state capitol with more on a possible settlement between the two.
Mayor Bottoms says she spoke with Governor Kemp just before her appearance on The Tonight Show. She says they aired out their differences in hopes that they can agree to disagree. A new hearing has been set for Tuesday in the legal fight between Governor Kemp and Mayor Bottoms. It all revolves around a lawsuit the governor filed over Atlanta's mask mandate and other COVID-19 restrictions. Tuesday's hearing was canceled after two judges recused themselves within hours of each other. Again, Mayor Bottoms spoke about the ongoing battle with the governor with Jimmy Fallon last night.
Hopefully we can figure out a way to agree to disagree without having to play this out in court. But at the end of the day, we want the same thing. We want people to be safe. We want to stop the spread of COVID-19, and it certainly doesn't help when we're having to fight one another.
And I did reach out to Governor Kemp's office and Mayor Bottoms' office to see if there was some sort of resolution that came from that conversation yesterday. Also at 3 o'clock, Mayor Bottoms will give updates when it comes to COVID-19, public safety, and other things going on in the city.
Yeah, hopefully we should learn more at 3 p.m. today. Now to another big story we're following, a look at the deadly consequences of coronavirus in Georgia. The state health department reporting 81 deaths yesterday, the fourth highest total of the pandemic. We know more young people are getting the virus right now, but this shows it is still deadly for older people and the medically fragile. This next chart shows the number of new cases versus the number of new tests. We are testing more, as you can see right there at the bottom in teal. Our 7-day positivity rate is now 15.3%. That's down from 16% last week. The World Health Organization recommending the rate be below 5%. President Trump addressing the media and the nation about all of the coronavirus cases again yesterday. He's been pushing to reopen schools, and he was asked, is he comfortable with his own son and grandchildren going to school?
I am comfortable with that, and we do have a national strategy, but as you know, ultimately it's up to the governors of the states, I think most governors, many governors, want the schools to open. I would like to see the schools open, especially when you see statistics like this. We have great statistics on young people.
The president also announcing a major agreement, $2 billion here with the drug company Pfizer to get millions of doses of vaccines to the public once there is one. And hopefully that may happen by the end of this year, early next year. Samantha, over to you with the weather.
Oh, we are seeing those clouds start to build, and you know what that means. We're going to end up seeing some of those thunderstorms forming fairly shortly. We're already starting to see some up in the mountains, mainly because it's so hot and humid. 86 degrees. 70 degrees is the dew point, but it feels like 91. And other temperatures, right now we're looking at 89 in Athens, 88 in Eatonton and in Rome, 88 in Dalton, but it feels more like 95 in Athens, 94 in Eatonton with that heat index that feels like temperature with that dew point oh so high here in the right around 70 degrees. So that is a tropical air mass when you get up around that range. So we're starting to see those thunderstorms start to pop here across far north Georgia. So this is where we're going to be focused, especially the next few hours, for storms forming here in the mountains. And that's where we do have that marginal risk for isolated thunderstorms as we head through the rest of this afternoon. So coming up, we'll time them out for you and let you know when to expect the strongest of the storms.
All right, Samantha, thank you. A panel of Atlanta leaders discussing racism, policing, and how the city can move forward during the Black Lives Matter movement. Ambassador Andrew Young, interim Atlanta Police Chief Rodney Bryant, Reverend Gerald Durley, a longtime civil rights activist, the man charged with delivering the eulogy for the late C.T. Vivian today. In a virtual event yesterday, they talked about the recent protests, police brutality, and passing the torch from leaders in the civil rights movement to the younger generation. Ambassador Young said law enforcement officers should interact with kids and teenagers in the community to help foster positive relationships. And Reverend Durley really dove into how effective communication is a critical step in the process.
On the police side and the community side, we must understand each other. We cannot assume what a policeman is doing or assume what a civil rights activist is doing. So to communicate, we've got to first understand each other. Second, we've got to respect each other's differences. Too many times when we don't understand, we don't respect. And then the third thing, which I think is the big bugaboo, we've got to learn how to trust each other.
Open and honest conversation here, and it turned personal as well. Atlanta Interim Police Chief Rodney Bryant gave his perspective as an officer and as a black man.
I've heard a number of people talking about their fear of being pulled over. Trust me, I have that same fear. I really do. When I see the blue lights come on behind me, I'm going through my mental Rolodex to see what happened. But I also recognize, maybe different than some of you all, that generally I have to acknowledge the fact that I have a gun in the car, and I have to have that conversation quickly.
The panel also talking about allies and how they're needed. They discussed the need to have people who aren't people of color help to amplify the voices of the voiceless and educate themselves on anti-racism. DeKalb County, now the first county in Georgia to declare racism a public health crisis. Leaders making the move after noticing that racial disparities when it comes to COVID-19 hospitalizations, cases, and deaths were alarmingly higher for Black Americans. Research shows that African Americans are more likely to be hospitalized due to medical complications.
And guess who pays for the emergency room? The uninsured. All of us. But if you have a PCP and you practice prevention, guess what it does for the overall economic well-being for all of us in the state of Georgia and the nation. So this is a public health crisis.
DeKalb County Commissioner Larry Johnson, who led this effort, is hoping to meet with different age groups and Emory medical professionals. He wants to put a health action plan in place for the African American community. You can read more on this full resolution on our website, 11alive.com.
Still to come, the very latest unemployment numbers are out, how the uptick in coronavirus cases impacting the U.S. labor market.
We appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97. Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both.
Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during prime time. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
The number of people filing for unemployment last week rose big time, the biggest bump since the pandemic hit back in March. According to the U.S. Labor Department, filings for jobless benefits rose to 1.4 million as more states rolled back reopenings because of the coronavirus. That is still far below the peak of 6.9 million first-time claims in late March. Officials say roughly 30 million Americans are currently receiving unemployment benefits. Here in Georgia, the number of first-time unemployment claims continuing to drop. For the week of July 18th, more than 120,000 advance claims were filed. That's down by more than 18,000 from the previous week's numbers. A lifeline is about to run dry for millions of Americans who are out of work. The federal government's $600 unemployment bonus, it is stopping at the end of the week as lawmakers in Washington, D.C. debate other ways to offer assistance. Every day we hear from so many of you out of work and just frustrated. One woman in Georgia remains persistent in her struggle to track down her money. She called the unemployment office more than 900 times to get answers. Keisha Lance has her story.
You have reached the Georgia Department of Labor.
This automated welcome from the Georgia Department of Labor, a familiar voice to thousands of Georgians who are struggling to get answers about unemployment benefits. At 11Alive, we get questions about them too. Today from Joe, I need help finding out about my unemployment benefits. It's been 3 months and I'm not getting a response or help from GDOL. Rick, I have not received anything in 11 weeks. At this point, I'm desperate. And Kayla Morrow.
We get a busy signal. We get something that sounds similar to a fax line or like what the old dial-up AOL used to sound like.
She's frustrated from calling for 2 weeks. Kayla, an out-of-work waitress, downloaded an automatic redial app to make the calls for her. After dialing and redialing,
crashed at 916 phone calls.
She filed back in June, but made an error. Kayla says that mistake led to weeks of unanswered calls, emails, and social media posts. It's time she doesn't have to waste.
I'm not going to be homeless tomorrow, but I'm not going to say that I'm not going to be homeless 2 weeks from now.
The Georgia Department of Labor tells us it normally receives 25 to 30,000 calls a day. 50 people take those calls. 42 career centers across the state also take calls and reply to email messages. The department says social media messages are replied to 7 days a week.
So keep on trying. Each case is unique and some require a deeper review than a quick email can provide. But as Kayla was told, keep calling until you get an answer. Don't give up.
Yesterday, I was in Plains, Georgia with the Carter Family Foundation and with many of the Carter family members as well. President Carter and his wife Rosalind are, of course, known for helping improve living conditions generationally for people all around the world. And it is a passion that's been part of the Carter legacy for as long as they have been with us. And now the Carter family is working to try to help their neighbors in their hometown of Plains. Plains is not a very big place, but generational poverty is a part of Plains, as it's a part of rural Georgia and urban Atlanta. They are hoping to raise $500,000 by President Carter's 96th birthday, which is not that far away. There are about 600 people who live here in Plains. 25 houses are in poor condition. 5 of them must be raised. This will be in tandem with Habitat for Humanity. You must have been really excited when you heard that was going to happen.
Yes, I was. Very excited. And still am.
President Carter late this afternoon from his Plains, Georgia home, lending support to the Carter Family Foundation, helping our neighbors. It is an effort to buoy the town and to work to close the tangible gaps in the equality of housing.
He has worked internationally and some in our country trying to help people all over the world. And he got back home and he's here all the time. And he knows everybody's grandparents or parents, but you don't know how your neighbor lives very often. Once you go and if you look at some of these houses, you'll be surprised that people live like that in our country.
The Carter Family Foundation is looking to try and improve housing here in Plains. I spent a lot of time with Chip Carter yesterday, who lives in Decatur, and we were talking about his father's health. We have not seen President Carter and Mrs. Carter for about a year. Yesterday was the first time that we have seen them physically in a very, very long time. And age, as we all know, those of us who have had aging parents and those of us who are aging ourselves understand what comes with all of this. And I asked him how his father was doing, and he goes, well, he has good days and bad days, and certainly he is now doing something that he's not done in a long time, and that's a sense of optimism. He's swimming again. He has a pool in Plains and is swimming every day, the way that he did when he was at the Naval Academy, and it has given him some added vitality. So more on the Carters coming up in the days ahead on 11Alive. I have some other stories I want to share with you, and one I think that you will enjoy coming up tomorrow. All right, we'll take a break. We continue right after this.
People we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people, or are you doing this to make money, or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during prime time. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/.
Well, your 11Alive storm trackers have been busy tracking those afternoon and evening storms this week. Check out this picture from one of our 11Alive storm trackers in North Georgia yesterday. An incredible rain shaft coming out of the bottom of this thunderstorm. This was brought to us by Scott Kuhn. He posted it on our 11Alive Facebook page. Thank you so much for doing that, our Storm Tracker Facebook page. And it is hot and humid. We're seeing the clouds bubble up once again, and that means more storms. Let's go ahead and check out what you can expect. The humid conditions will definitely fuel some thunderstorms this afternoon, already fueling some here in Rabun County, stretching down towards Dahlonega, and a lot of lightning. I mean, within just moments, this thing is just blown up. At the beginning of the show, there was just a few little raindrops here, and now we're talking a lot of lightning in the past 15 minutes, 15 strikes. So things are really starting to brew here across Rabun County. So as we head into the afternoon, this is our focus, but this could extend downward in the direction of the Atlanta area. So we are expecting to see the best chance for severe weather here across far north Georgia, damaging wind gusts, heavy rain, as well as frequent lightning. And boy, have we had the lightning this week. And we could see an isolated severe storm anywhere across north Georgia as the afternoon wears on. Check this out, the tropics. We do have our tropical depression here in the center of the Gulf, and it is expected to impact Texas by the weekend. In fact, it's going to continue that westward movement, strengthening as it goes to a tropical storm. And if it becomes a tropical storm, which it could even do later today, it'll be Tropical Storm Hannah. That's the next one on the list. We're also watching Gonzalo. It's out here about 1,000 miles east of the Windward Islands. It's strengthening too, up to a hurricane strength, maybe by today as well. And it's going to pick up its pace as it moves through the Caribbean Ocean. And after that, we're going to have to really watch it because these models are not in agreement. Some of them bringing it up to towards the Florida Peninsula, which means maybe we could be impacted by Gonzalo. So we're going to have to watch it as we head into the beginning of next week. So we're warming up fast today. That'll fuel some afternoon and evening storms, and we're going to stay active through next week. In fact, here's what we're expecting this afternoon. We'll be watching as these showers move from the south to the north throughout the afternoon and evening hours. Could see some heavy downpours here, even in towards 9, 10, 11 o'clock. And then things should quiet down for the night, and we'll see more activity on our Friday night, and then again on our Saturday and Sunday, and so on as things stay very active the next 7 days. 30% chance on your Thursday afternoon, 40% chance Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and it stays active into the middle of next week, and hot and humid weather continuing as well.
Visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscasts not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during prime time. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions.
We want to thank you so much for watching 11Alive News at noon. We are going to leave you now with a live look inside Providence Missionary Baptist Church. The funeral service for the late Reverend C.T. Vivian underway right now. Look for this streaming coverage on our YouTube page and also the 11Alive app. This is his son.
That's Al Vivian, who is a marvelous speaker.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscast not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews, extended body cam footage, live streams of Atlanta's biggest trials, and more. Subscribe to 11Alive today.
In times of great uncertainty, some things become more clear. The things we take for granted, the people we depend on daily. Here at 11Alive, we'd like to say thank you. First responders, medical staff, sanitation workers, truck drivers, postal workers, and every brave Georgian doing their part to make a difference. We see you, we hear you, and we appreciate all that you do.
Let's start with a viral message going around. Quote, vast majority of people who died had ibuprofen Advil in their system. This message is fake.
We just bought 20 dust masks for $97.
Are you doing this to help people or are you doing this to make money or both?
Both. Take this email sent to the Verify team. Is it safe to have your house cleaned by outside workers? The best practice is to limit guests to emergencies only.
We know things are changing every day, but we're here with you. Continuous COVID-19 coverage during prime time. We're committed to giving you facts, not fear. On 11Alive News Primetime, weeknights from 8 to 11 on WATF.
There are everyday actions to help prevent the spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects with household cleaning spray. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
Today at noon on 11Alive.
We are seeing that lack of smell or altered taste can be a symptom.
We answer your coronavirus-related medical questions. Because 11Alive is where Atlanta speaks.
Televised newscast not enough for you? Get even more at 11Alive's YouTube channel, where you'll find uncut interviews,